Turns out Buddy Cianci was pretty smart about the numbers, but...
The Dan Yorke State of Mind program is brought to you in part by Lookout Rhode Island and Takeo Comfort Solutions.
It's always kind of eerie when you're talking about, a former political leader, executive of the city who's no longer with us. And so I think diplomacy is a mandate here. But the truth of the matter is that Target 12, Eyewitness News, have really put together a pretty fascinating story about the former mayor, the late Buddy Cianci, who seemed to know exactly what kind of financial distress the city of Providence was going to experience with its pension problem, yet didn't do much to solve it. Dan McGowan and Walt Buteau are both here. They put the story together last week that ran on Channel 12, and we'll run that momentarily and talk to them about it, and you'll learn a lot about what was then and what is now financially for the city of Providence. Great to have you aboard. Thanks very much for tuning in here. In the meantime, you can't start the show on a Monday evening without this. Is there a Sunday or a weekend that goes by without something? Can we have this headline here, Kev? It's not shocking. It's just completely numbing. Just completely numbing. And now we talk in categories from press conferences.
We are dealing with the largest mass shooting in our state's history. There's so many families who've lost family members.
How about this? I was watching a report earlier today that suggested that this is the largest church shooting. Rolled right off the tongue of the reporter doing the, quote, stand-up in front of the church. This is the largest church shooting in American history. Church shooting. Say it slowly to yourself. Church shooting. Now, what do you do about this? This is the $100 million question, the billion-dollar question, the unanswerable question for America. But let me say this. Mental health investment, absolutely. Blah, 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 blah. But... you need that weapon. I don't know why we sell those weapons. And you want to call me a bleeding heart liberal? You know what? Over the course of time, maybe it's old age, but I'm just getting a little sick and tired of these weapons being available for sale, and I don't know what the functional use of them is for anybody, anymore, anywhere. And I think we have to talk about that, but not tonight. In the meantime, here is a couple of minute story that I think you're going to find fascinating about the city of Providence.
We'll still have a couple $100 million of assets left, won't we?
No, they will be gone by 2017. So you run in 2016, I think.
No. Pablo will be here. Pablo will be here.
We'll retire 2015.
In the fall of 1996, in Committee Room A on the 3rd floor of City Hall,
and the city of Providence is not going to be able to afford.
The voice of Mayor Buddy Cianci echoed pension concerns as the chairman of the Board of Investment.
Are we wasting our time over here?
I can't. This is ridiculous.
Well, what are we going to do?
This is believed to be among the earliest conversations about the city's pension problem. The recordings were pulled from the City Hall's 5th floor and put on Providence's webpage as part of the city clerk's ongoing transparency effort. Target 12 reviewed hours of recordings discovering concern over the looming 1998 city pension contribution that was set to double to about $42 million.
Wait a minute now, this is strictly, is that what we have to contribute? Is that what you're telling me?
Yes, sir. That's what it says.
Time would drive that $42 million figure up as the city underfunded the pension by about $121 million in the years leading up to the crisis. And documents show city leaders had the gall to declare a budget surplus in 7 different years, even though the proper pension payments were not made during that time. Still, while the required payment grew each year, even that $42 million number was frightening to Mayor Cianci back in '96.
The unions ought to be made aware of this. I mean, the city will no longer exist if we have to come up with this kind of money.
That sort of money was blamed on the now infamous 1991 consent decree that locked in the pension cost of living adjustment at 6%. In 2014, after Cianci announced he was running for mayor, he told Target 12 he was advised to sign the document to stop what was said to be costly litigation with the pension board.
We were just part of the culture of the time. Money was more plentiful. People weren't living as longer.
But the recordings tell us even in 1996, they saw the crisis coming.
If we kept on the same schedule, when would we run out of money?
2017.
I want to know who the mayor is going to be in the year 2017. He's got to come up with $101 million for the pension.
You know, the way you guys crafted that story, I think, was poetic. It really was. It's just, you found it, Danny, in going through the archives, and Walt, you put this whole thing together. Welcome. I'm glad to have you both. It's literally poetic. I said it twice. Talk to me. It's crazy.
It's interesting. I think the process, and our consultants tell us the viewer, your viewers, our viewers, they like the process. And the process was he did find it, and he said, "Hey, Walt, look at this. I'm thinking of doing a story on this." And I looked at it.
Dan found it.
Dan found it. Well, so I think he got a tip about it being dug, pulled down from the archives of the 5th floor of City Hall. And
we're talking about the audio.
That's right, the audio, yeah.
And a bunch of meetings that were put online, and he's going, look at this one, and it says 2017, and it's Buddy looking into the future, and I thought, I would do a TV story on that. He was sort of soft-selling it to us. But then we see there's audio, and the audio is just, it's dramatic, but it also brings us into the future that the general public might think the pension systems, it's fixed, right? But it's not.
So let's talk. We'll talk about the mechanics of these financial decisions coming up a little bit. But the background on this, one would think that this was some kind of serendipitous exercise to be able to find this audio. The truth of the matter is that City Hall just kind of coughed it up.
It's
right?
literally. You could see. I could see where people, and I got a couple of emails about this. People who would say, "Oh, clearly the mayor told you to go look at this,"
right.
And it couldn't
meaning the current mayor.
Yeah, the current mayor, or clearly someone who maybe had a reason to make Buddy look bad, or to take blame away from themselves. It's so funny because the city clerk, who's been around for a long time, she's literally going through the process of putting meeting minutes and audio from all these meetings that have happened, going back through the early 90s, the retirement board, all the city council meetings. And she literally just said to me, "Dan, you're the only person who's going to care about this, but there's this stuff I just put online. You might want to take a look at it." There was no, "You won't believe what Buddy said." She didn't have time to go through any of that. Started to look at the meeting minutes, and right away, like Walt said, I was like, "Whoa, this is going to be kind of fun." And then as I annoyed Walt for the next month, I basically, every time we come across something, I'd make him listen to it, and we realized, wow, we've got a really good story here.
And the verbiage is on the minutes themselves, where it says what he said. And the winning soundbite, although he says it many times, is the fact that he has the year. So I think we were saying, if he had said 2016, oh, that's interesting. 2015, that's interesting. 2018, that's interesting. But 2017.
Sometimes it's better to be lucky than good.
It is, and I remember it brought me full circle to Buddy in the late 90s, when we were in there for something he didn't want to talk about, murder rates, Plunderdome, those types of things. I remember him getting frustrated and going, "You know what you should talk about? You should talk about those compounded COLAs." Now, he didn't mention that he signed the consent decree or that background, and he never did anything about it, not to bash on Buddy, because he's not the only one who was in those meetings. Think about it, there's other voices there. They didn't do anything either.
Well, we'll talk about the council and the governing process coming up. But the very idea that the city clerk has now decided to call through and update, what is this, a 2-decade look back, a reorg going on in terms of the city's policies and procedures? Why now?
What it is they basically, in the last, I would say, 3 years, they've made a real effort, better, by the way, than any municipality in the state, and certainly better than the General Assembly, of putting all of their current meetings online. So you can listen to anything that happens in City Hall in a public meeting forum, from the City Council all the way to the Board of Investment, all these little boards and
that's
panels.
Under the direction of?
That's the City Clerk's office.
But is that her independent decision to do so?
It was actually the last City Clerk that initiated it, when this new City Clerk, Lori Hagan, became the clerk, which was in 2015.
Her discretion, directed by laws of the council, or is
it
just
say, like, this was a project, essentially. They were already doing it, and then they said, you know what, we've got all of these recordings, all of these meeting minutes, all of this stuff in archives
that only Dan cares about.
That allegedly only I care about. Let's start to put it all online. And they have. They've done lots of interesting things. We haven't gone through all of it. We haven't, certainly gone through. I think I've read through most of the city council meeting minutes because I like to know what the city council was thinking.
Well, you're leading me
like
is there more to come? Do you think you're going to stumble upon more holy cow type of moments?
I think there's a chance, whether it's with the pension or especially with the pension, one of the things I'm really interested in is what the city council wanted to do about it. Because here's the thing. As you know, you need 8 votes, and in fact, with the city council, you need 10 votes actually to pass a budget. And so what I'm a little unclear of is where we go down this path of not funding the pension system properly. So is it Buddy proposed it, the city council cut it? My gut is it's a mix of a bunch of different things. One of the reasons being that the required contribution wasn't actually required. They could basically say every year.
State law did not require.
There was no state law. There was no municipal ordinance. The only thing that requires. Yeah, the only thing that requires it right now is a consent decree that Mayor Tavares signed.
And Mayor Lorza brought up in his. Now, Mayor Lorza, you have to hand it to him because he had an opportunity to slam his opponent. Not that he would, but I think he used it in a way to look ahead to say we need a big idea because it's $73 million this year. I think he said jokingly something that didn't make air. In the 6 o'clock piece, he said, we just didn't use the budget. He said something like, well, I would love to have $42 million because now it's $73 million, and it's going to be $100 million in the next decade. Yeah. But Alorza thought maybe that the way it happened was that the budget gets proposed, it gets passed, the year end comes toward the end of the year, and they're just like, you know what? We don't have to fund the pension. Maybe it happened at the end of the year.
All right, when we come back, we'll talk about why it wasn't so popular to fix these problems then, and certainly is now. Stay with us.
If we don't do something, maybe over the next decade or so, then 20 years from now, the city's going to be in the exact same position. Folks will be asking, do we have to look at bankruptcy? Do we have to look at receivership?
Who's he kidding? 20 years from now. Do the math. We have a downturn in the marketplace again. It ain't 20 years from now. So the mayor's a little bit too chilled. Obviously, he inherited this kind of cumulative pension problem. Walt and Dan, if you haven't seen the story, make sure, which we played at the top of the hour, go back to WPRI.com or FoxProvidence.com, and you will see the links to this fascinating story of how Buddy Cianci and the people who did all the numbers, including, well, in this particular case, the audio comes not from the council, but from a
Board of Investment
meeting. But the
council president was the council president at the time is there.
So they knew that they had this huge mounting problem. They had a predictive date of 2017, ironically, back in 1996, as like that's when the bomb blows, and who's going to be the mayor. I will tell you, if the mayor, if Buddy had won election, I submit, you and I have talked about this. First of all, I think he'd still be alive. I just feel that in my gut that would have driven him. He lost that race. I could see. I mean, obviously he had a serious health issue, but I just felt like his whole system kind of just went, oof. Yeah. He very well could still have been the mayor, running into this audio.
He would have said, "Hey, I told you." He would have said, "I told you."
Well, even in the piece that you put together and referencing the discussion you had with him back in the election season, he has this way to spin. Mm-hmm. Yeah. His book talks about spinning and lying. Yeah. He does it while you're doing it. Right. And we all just kind of go, oh, okay. Fascinating.
Because it was such a complicated issue, he was able to basically say, look, we thought we were challenging it in court. We did know that giving away 5% and 6% compounded COLAs to retirees was not a good thing. But my lawyers told us that it was the right thing to do. It could cost us more in the long run if we didn't sign this consent decree, which he did. And then to the question of, but you let it get worse, or you allowed it to get worse, I think he would have probably said, no, we were challenging it, we fought it every step of the way. Problem is while they fought it every step of the way, they weren't paying what they were supposed to, which creates.
Nor making a lot of noise about it.
No.
No, well, he would make it in private, and I go back to that era.
Well, private doesn't count.
Not well to a reporter, so maybe I should have done more. I mean, and obviously the city council president knew not to defend Buddy, but there was a mayor in Cranston at the time, Mayor O'Leary, former state rep or state senator, can't recall. He's still with us, I know, but he was pushing it in Cranston. We got to take care of our pension. We got to take care of our pension. No traction. No traction there. No traction in Providence. Jack and I talked about it. Jack White and I talked about it. I remember talking about, you know, it wasn't underfunded. It was unfunded liability. There's a slight difference there, and so it was talked about. But I think everybody was like, "Woohoo! Happy days are here
Well, you know,
again."
this is fascinating because you said in our last segment that you remember Cianci speaking to you, referencing the COLA rates and the doubling. Do you think, looking back on it, that it was a cry for help, that he would have loved to actually have you do that story so that he could point to it rather than having bring it out himself? So the pressure would have been on?
Maybe. I failed.
You let the city down.
You're the reason I have a job.
I failed. No, that's a great point. I always looked at it as he was distracting us. Look over here. Don't look here. I don't want you to look at this issue because I'm not in his office because of some parade. We're in his office about something. He said
so
it to me multiple times.
Maybe it wasn't that sentiment, but in the back of his mind, he knew that was a lingering problem, and under stress, trying to distract. He spoke about something that too would have been a problem.
Yes.
But was bubbling on the top of his head.
Here's what also was happening, because I looked on these meetings. What's really interesting too is you could see who was in the room, and I would say for the 50 or so, 60 meetings that we looked at, you'd see a Providence Journal reporter there once in a while, maybe once every 10 meetings or so, let's say. And if you look back to the Providence Journal archives, there's a great reporter who's now at the New York Times, C.J. Chivers, who was a City Hall reporter. I've read everything he's ever written about Providence. He was excellent. And he covered the city's pension system a little bit. The thing it was one of those things where every time a report came out that said, oh, there's a chance the city could run out of money, the pension system could run out of money, it would make the Sunday Journal, it would get attention. But what Buddy would do, rather than say, look at raising alarm bells, he would say, oh, they're not paying attention. We're making money in our pension fund. Our returns are looking good. So he would almost deflect it, even though those were probably opportunities to say, you know, the Journal's right, we've got these problems, but he couldn't bring himself to admit that he wasn't fixing the problem.
All they had to do was they were worried about $40 million, because it was, in '98, I think it had doubled from 21 to 42, something like that. They were worried about 40. If they had just done 40, I don't know that we would still, we wouldn't
21
be this
to
problem.
42 meaning?
The annual, so now it's 73, yes. And it went from 21 to 42 as the COLA, I guess, had really grabbed hold of the city, and it was going to go up from there, and that's what they were looking at. 101 in 2017 is what Cianci thought it would be. It was 73. It was close. So, but if they had just done that, and we asked the city to do this for us, there's $121 million that didn't get contributed to the fund. But it's complicated. It's not just 121 compounded interest, because it was 10 this year that would have gotten maybe 20% in interest the next year. And then, so then you have what? You have 24. And then it would have gotten more, you know, it's compounded interest. And then maybe that year they didn't put 15. So it's not an easy math problem.
It was a hard thing to figure out. We never really got that answer.
Right. I think somebody could have done it for it, but does that mean we wouldn't be in the same problem now? The mayor thinks by selling the water supply or leasing the water supply, an influx of $300 million would fix the system. Well, now we have 120 that didn't get into it. Over 10 years, that might be $300 million.
You know, you go to the well, literally, one time, and you don't fix a problem, you're kind of a dead duck. We'll talk about the pension health, not only in the city of Providence, but across the board when we come back. Stay with us.
Asset that frankly is worth more in someone else's hands than it is in ours, since we're so heavily regulated by the Public Utilities Commission. So
Mayor Lohr's is looking to sell the water system as a one-time recovery for Providence's financial health, mostly due to this pension unfunded liability. We also have, from city to city, across the board, even on the state level, this thing called OPEB. But you may hear the acronym from time to time. It's other post-employment benefits. It's health care, health insurance, which is run amok and is never it's kind of a 1996 never discussed story.
Right.
It is healthcare systems that are going to completely unfund or blow up.
Absolutely.
And people who need their health care or the health insurance are going to find that they're going to be in desperate straits. It is amazing how these two retirement benefits have accumulated to the point where this state is going to have a day of reconciliation.
Yeah, I mean,
and one water system, sell off in Providence isn't going to fix the whole problem.
No, it's not. I mean, and you're right. Providence spends $30 million a year on retiree health care. And that's just, it's pay as you go. There's no savings fund. It's not like the pension fund. So
and
they
$1 billion
every
in
year.
liability with that as well.
Yeah, so it's a $2 billion if you combine the unfunded
$1 billion
pension.
for the unfunded pension, $1
yeah.
billion for OPEB or the.
It's a huge problem. No question about it. And sure, the mayor, the mayor's pitching the water as the answer to the pension system. The pension system is the one that the government sort of accounting boards and stuff like that are more interested in. What if you talk to people at like Moody's, for example, they would say that the ratings agencies, they would say, we want to see that you're doing something with your health care, but you've actually got to do stuff with you've actually got to make real impact in your pension fund. That's what lowers bond ratings, things like that.
You should tell them, so that you can always go more in depth online, obviously, and Dan's great at that, but he had a discussion with a guy from another part of the country about this. Great exchange.
Yeah, so I was talking to this national guy who's an expert on pensions, and he's listening to me kind of rattle off all these stats about Providence, and I said, Providence is 25% funded in their pension system, and he said, stop it, you must be wrong. And he didn't believe me, and he's probably dealing with a lot of reporters who maybe don't know. I was like, no, I'm serious. It's a 25% currently. Now, it's scheduled to go up. If you make the right contributions and you make 8% on your pension fund, the contribution
which is a high rate of return. Which is a very high rate of return,
very high. Potentially over time, that funding ratio will go up, everything, but it's a scary thing.
Well, here's the thing. You guys are going to be reporting on this a lot, and I'll be commenting on it a lot, because what we find, I think, in 1996 and through the early 2000s is that there was no political palatability talking about, adjusting or reforming the pension system. That's the paycheck. So Gina Raimondo, to her credit, at least brings the conversation as state treasurer, right? I don't know that it's trickled down exceptionally well to municipalities. But somewhere along the line, this lack of palatability on health insurance, which is such a national conversation, is going to come. It's going to be the second wave of, oh my God, what are we going to do? All of them know right now what the problem is. Every municipally elected official, from council to mayor, across the board, know what
you
the bubble
cannot
is.
You cannot be in the dark on this anymore. It's one of the reasons why I like more so pensions, just because it's been the topic of conversation in Rhode Island in the last couple of years. But you're right with the retiree.
So with 30 seconds left, what is the journalistic obligation?
I think this is the single most important policy issue in the city of Providence. I cover it constantly, and I think it's our obligation to continue to ask questions about it.
And you know what? It's not an easy topic to explain, especially on TV. And Buddy Cianci, love him or hate him, he helped us explain it. I look at news as a plate of food. He was the dessert, he was the side dish, but the main meal is there's still a problem in Providence. It's 25% funded. That's not good.
It's fun.
You think in news stories. Everything you do, you think
I like
in
working
news
with
stories.
I know.
If it doesn't fit in a news story, it doesn't compute. But
like
if it does, boy, does it.
A little bell went off when I heard the audio.
Good work, guys. Fascinating. Thanks. Make sure you see that story online at foxprovidence.com or wpri.com. Final word when we come back. I'm reminded, by the way, that at WPRI.com you can read Dan McGowan's 2,000-word narrative. It's a quick read, and actually hear all of the raw audio from that 1996 set of meetings with Buddy Cianci, including his discussion of low-fat cookies. It's good stuff. All right, national grid problems tomorrow here on TV, and see you on the radio at 3 on WPRO. Thanks for checking in. Good night.